God, do I really want to cover the Russel Brand thing? No, I don't really want to. You know what, we'll cover it quickly. Russel Brand de facto endorsed Trump, which was, he said, in a straight choice between Biden and Trump, I don't know how anyone could vote for anybody other than Trump. And of course, Team Trump immediately jumped on this, took it, clipped it, and are now using it to campaign. So Russel Brand is now being made into a tool of the Donald Trump campaign for president. This hippie burnout has, I guess, burned himself a little too much and fried his brain. Let's listen to what he has to say.
For a long time, Elizabeth, I've been concerned about the snobbery and contempt and condemnation in which people that support Donald Trump are plainly held by his detractors. And this is while you have an administration that's emulating his policies, plagiarizing from Donald Trump while simultaneously criminalizing him through the weaponization of the legal system. In a straight choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, if you care about democracy, if you care about freedom, I don't know how you can do anything other than vote for Donald Trump for precisely the reasons that they claim that you can't vote for Donald Trump. They act as if a vote for Donald Trump is almost like you're directly voting for Armageddon. Like you see hysterical performances outside of...
Okay, 1 second. About like the stealing of Trump's policies, plagiarizing policies. I don't know what he's referring to. I'm sure that there's some policies that are the same as there are holdovers from any administration pass over to the next one. You'd have to name a policy for me to be able to bounce off of it in any way. But that has nothing, even if it, let's say he plagiarized literally every policy from the Trump administration. That has nothing to do with the issue of freedom. That would just have to do with some, maybe you could say, oh, slightly dishonest, or you could say, oh, that's, you know, we don't like that as Democrats, maybe you shouldn't have done. It has nothing to do with freedom. As for the weaponization of the judicial system against Trump, Trump is a really bad criminal. What I mean by bad criminal, not as in like, oh, he's particularly criminal, even though he is. What I mean is that he's really bad at doing crime. Politicians have been doing crime for a very long time. Trump is just very bad at doing the crimes that he wants to while in the public eye. Like, for example, when we talk about the recent thing that Trump just got found guilty for, 34 counts over trying to pay hush money to a adult film actress that he slept with, which he still denies and lies about sleeping with. So financial record, like the evidence in the trial is overwhelming. You can see going from Trump's accounts to her accounts, the money transferring. It's like, unless he just felt like, I guess, donating $130,000 to the Stormy Daniels fund, I think it was for something. I think it was obviously for something. But that alone isn't the dumbest part of it. I mean, politicians have sex scandals, politicians have hush money. The dumbest part was having your fixer, who also not only is your fixer, but also manages your money, manage the situation, and then pissing him off and having him flip on you. That's how you're a bad criminal. This would be like if Hillary Clinton actually did off Seth Rich. Didn't happen. But let's say that she did do that and then hired somebody to cover it up and then erase all evidence and then pissed them off. Pissed off the one person that you shouldn't be pissing off because of the knowledge that they have and the trust that you have given them by giving them that information. As for if you care about democracy, you have to vote for Trump. Trump has called for the suspension of the U.S. Constitution. If Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Al Gore, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, whoever it could be, John Kerry, for God's sake, whoever it could be, if any of those people came out and said, suspend the Constitution and make me president, they would be lambasted as a dictator in waiting. But because it's Donald Trump, it's either brushed off as, oh, it's a joke, or, well, you know, actually, if we twist these words around, we can make it sound like it's not nearly as bad as it actually is when he says suspend the U.S. Constitution. But he tried to suspend the U.S. Constitution. He was advocating for the suspension of the U.S. Constitution. Not only was he advocating for suspension of the U.S. Constitution, but he also tried to go through with a fake electors plot, making fake electors. That means people where in the United States, when we have a vote, it isn't just you vote and then your vote is sent to like DC and then they count your vote. It's you vote for electors to either vote for one person or the other guy, you know, either vote for Democrat or Republican. And then once the votes are tallied, the person who gets the most votes, that is sent to the elector. The elector then takes that, associates it with the person who got the most votes, say Joe Biden. And then they go up and say, hey, Joe Biden got the votes here. Boom, electoral college vote for for Joe Biden. That's how it's supposed to. That's how it works. What Donald Trump and his gang of hoodlums tried to do, is, Rudy Giuliani spearing a lot of this, was get other people to claim to be electors with no legal basis, not because they thought that if they applied these again, these electors with no legal basis to be electors, they were just chosen by Trump's inner circle to be the electors and to have fake certification hearings. After this would be done, they would not challenge it saying these are the real ones. They would be like, oh man, we got these electors and those electors. We don't know what is the real and what is the fake elector. So how about we just do just do it again, and we'll send it back to states. States will decide who's the next president of the United States. And who had a majority of state houses during the election? The Republicans did. That was the plan. The plan was to send it to a body where Republicans had majority support. Donald Trump could then get that majority support to vote for him as president, even though he didn't necessarily win all the electoral college votes or enough electoral college votes to be president, or even win the popular vote. That was the plan. That is not democratic. That is, oh, I didn't like the results of the election, so we're just going to twist it around. Donald Trump said in advance, if he loses, it is rigged. He is somebody who will never accept the results of a democratic election if it is not in his favor. Even during the Republican primary in 2015, he was throwing around the idea that, oh, this isn't fair. When I lost this election, it was because this X, Y, and Z reason, and it was fair. We were cheated. And going into this one, he said it was rigged. He said it was, no matter what happens, if I lose, it's rigged. How is that pro-democracy? How can you vote for that man from a democratic standpoint, from a democratic position? It makes no sense. And Russel Brand, unless he's on that good stuff that I just don't know about, man, like, he should know better.
Of courtrooms, endless MSNBC bombast. But I'm starting to think that, no, a greater threat to democracy is this kind of technological feudalism that tells you that it cares about you and it's protecting vulnerable people, all the while increasing censorship, increasing the funding of wars, increasing the division between ordinary Americans.
Donald Trump massively increased drone strikes while he was president, and then after massively increasing the drone strikes, he then restricted the information on drone strikes so he wouldn't know about it. He said, in order to fight terrorism, you need to kill the families of terrorists. Not the terrorists themselves necessarily. If you can't get to them, attack their families. What's his position on Gaza? What's Russel Brand's position on Gaza? Because I'll tell you, Donald Trump's position on Gaza isn't kumbaya, let's all get together in a big semicircle and beat the drum and do a rain dance. That's not his position on Gaza. His position on Gaza is level it harder.
What do you think?
I think that the Armageddon that everyone's warning everyone of actually started when Joe Biden took office. What we're seeing in this country and around the world, World War III, I mean, people talk about this every single day because of what's happening in Ukraine, because of what's happening in Gaza. Look at the...
Wow, people talk about World War III. Scary. Scary. People talk about World War III. People talked about World War III amongst a million different conflicts. It is the job of commentators like this to splice the nonsense and tell people about the actual likelihood of said wars. Like, oh, well, how likely is it after 2.5 years of Joe Biden managing the war in Ukraine, managing the Russian invasion of Ukraine, preventing it from spiraling into a wider war? No. This is actually him provoking World War III. Let's hand it over to the guy who was floating the use of nuclear weapons in battlefield scenarios. Let's throw it to that guy who was floating an invasion of Venezuela in planning rooms. Let's float it to the guy over there who was calling Kim Rocket Man and threatening to wipe North Korea off the face of the earth with nuclear weapons. Like, let's throw it to that guy. That guy knows how to manage nuclear weapons. The guy who, once he got into office, had to ask his staff, why can't we use them?
The inflation rates here, look at our border, look at all the issues Americans are facing. This all started when Joe Biden took office.
Now that's just like mentally deranged. That's knuckle dragging behavior. Like, all of these issues is just due to Joe Biden getting in there. Before Joe Biden was president, everything was great. You know, we had like for example, when Donald Trump was president, so many more people dying from COVID. Now, a lot fewer people die from COVID. Like, we used to be number one in COVID deaths. Now we aren't. America used to be number one. This is This is pathetic. Joe Biden's destroying America.
Disjunct between reality.
But like, look, I'm not saying Joe Biden's a perfect president. He's fixed everything. But like inflation is up globally. Inflation is up in China. Inflation is up in Germany. Inflation is up in the United Kingdom, much higher than it is in the United States. Inflation is up all around the world. So saying, oh my God, Joe Biden got elected, and then worldwide inflation just spiked through the roof because everyone was scared of Joe Biden. This is stupid econ. This is stupid econ. We're trying to run away from a recession related to the COVID pandemic. And I'm trying not to say that word too much because I don't want to get demonetized by YouTube. And we're just going to blame that all on Joe Biden. It's not, there's no deep analysis here. There's none. It's just everything's Joe Biden's fault. If you vote for Joe Biden, you hate democracy. That's what this is. Like, at least I can say, like, if somebody votes for Trump, I don't think that's favorable toward democracy, but I don't think somebody is doing that necessarily because, oh, they want to kill democracy. There could be a million different reasons as to somebody is voting for Donald Trump. And I don't need to argue for somebody not voting for Donald Trump by blaming every single issue ever on Donald Trump. For example, I can't blame the fact that, the vid happened on him because it was something completely out of his control. Now, how you responded to it was within his control, but I can't blame him for it happening in the first place. Like, oh my gosh, we have a zombie apocalypse. A zombie outbreak broke out in like Timbuktu. How can we blame this on Joe Biden, Donald Trump, or whoever the current U.S. president is? Very American-centric framing here.
And the discourse is what frightens me most of all. The idea of this kind of Kafkaesque, Huxley-esque, Orwellian nightmare continuing all the way.
By the way, look at how much like word games, like Orwellian, techno-fascist, like all this stuff he has to throw out to argue that actually voting for the guy who called for suspension of the U.S. Constitution and for him to be immediately installed in president is actually the democracy guy relative to Joe.
While they're telling you that they're helping you. So
Wait. Oh, air raid sirens. Okay, anyway, continuing.
Far greater threat than their constant portrayal of Trump as a mad strongman figure, a kind of 21st century reiteration of the despotism of the last century.
Trump is 100% a strongman or an attempt to be a strong. He wants to be a strong. I don't even know if most Trump supporters would even deny that, because I always got the impression from them that, oh, we need the strong leader. We need Trump. Someone's going to go in there and clean it all up and clean house. I mean, if you look at like Project 2025 and his plan to go in there and replace all of the bureaucrats, cronies, that's strongman behavior. That's what that is.
For me, what we are facing now is a bigger threat than that.
Wow. Deep Russel Brand, deep as always. He needs to stop tripping, man. Hey, DD.
Burns is an
Thanks for the tier 1.
Morally corrupt,
32 months.
bankrupt man.
Dylan is a much better criminal than Donald Trump. Dylan knows to treat his editors well. And that's why we will never find out about all the smart